Good day, future LPT. So, Happy New Year. So, malapit na ang exam for this January 2022. I hope you are reviewing and sana makapasa tayong lahat. So, in today's review video, we will be discussing about Harlow's Psychomotor Taxonomy. So, it is important topic wherein na dapat nyo maintindihan to when making a psychomotor objectives in your lesson plans. So, Harlow's Psychomotor Taxonomy. So, it was developed by Anita Harlow. So, it focuses on the development of physical fitness, dexterity, agility, and body control to achieve a high level of expertise. So, it is organized according to the degree of coordination, including involuntary responses and learned capabilities. So, nagsisimula ito from, as you could see here in the diagram, it started from simple reflexes, then habang tumataas yung level, mas nagiging complex yung expression ng movements that requires more efforts, coordination, precision, and mastery. So that is the Harlow's Psychomotor Taxonomy. So this taxonomy has 6 levels. As you could see, reflex movements was the lowest level, and the highest level is the non-discursive communication. So later on, we will discuss it detailedly. So before we proceed to the levels of this taxonomy, we must first understand what is stimuli. So it is the various factors that can elicit a biological response. A thing or event that evokes a specific functional reaction in an organ or tissue. So let's analyze these examples. So we have here the plant and the food. So let's discuss first the food. So, when a person sees this food, diba, normally, they are craving for this food. Why? Kasi naisip na masarap at nakakabusog. Now, the stimulus here is the food. And the response is the craving. So, stimulus yung nag-cause kung bakit nag-crave yung tao. And the stimulus is the food. So, yun yung stimulus na sinasabi. Let's see another example. We have here the $600 reward and $2,000 reward. Now, based from this example, dun sa $600 reward, hindi nag-grow yung plant. $600 stimulus. But in the $2,000 stimulus, nag-grow yung plant. Meaning that $600 stimulus is not enough. It's not sufficient to make the plant grow. But the $2,000 is sufficient to make it grow. So the stimulus is the $2,000 and the response is the growth. I hope you do understand. Now that we already knew what is stimulus, we can easily understand what is reflex movements. So, reflex movements is an involuntary and nearly instantaneous movements in response to a stimulus. So, let's analyze the examples. So, we have here the blinking, the dilation of the pupil. Now, because of the light source, the pupil might dilate or contracts depending on the amount of light na umabot or na-receive ng eyes natin. Next is the flexion of the arms. Now, because of the flexion of the arms, nagkaroon ng contraction and, di ba, between the muscles. So, Isa yun sa mga reflexes na ginagawa ng muscles, whether it contracts or not. Depende sa actions na ginagawa ng katawan natin. Next is here, yung pinukpok yung tuhod niya. Then, nagkaroon ng response. Diba? So, these are the reflex movements. So, this is also an example of reflex movements. If a person, diba, nakaapak ng matalim or matulis na bagay, like thumbtacks or pako, agad-agaran niyang ilalayo yung kanyang paa doon. Diba? So, the stimulus is yung naapakang pako and the response is yung paglayo ng or pag-move ng katawan natin away from the stimulus. Like in this example. So, that is reflex movement. Now, second level of the taxonomy is the basic fundamental movement. Inherent movement patterns which are formed by combining reflexes. So, whenever we move our body, its anatomy has reflexes. Diba? If we try to see an object, then our eyes reflex. Our pupil might dilate or contracts. If we reach something else, then our body or our muscles contracts. Kaya, combining all these reflexes, diba, na involuntary na nangyayari sa katawan natin, combining all of this is what we call movement. Okay. So, it is a movement pattern. So, what are these fundamental movements of the body? We have running, jumping, throwing, catching, diba? Walking, hopping, like eating, right? Yun. And marami pang iba. Those are the fundamental movements that our body can do, like in this example. So let's proceed to the third level of the taxonomy, the perceptual abilities. So interpretation of various stimuli that enable one to make adjustments to the environment. So visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or tactile discriminations suggest cognitive as well as psychomotor behavior. So in this example, we have a sports or athletic type activity as example. So, di ba? Perceptual, sinasabi dito that visual and kinesthetic discriminations, yon. So, the body adjusts depending on the environment. For example, dito sa baseball, di ba? Yung trajectory ng bola ay papunta sa kanya. Then, depending on his perception visually, doon niya papaluin yung bola. Doon niya ibabat yung bola. So, nagkaroon ng visual and kinesthetic discrimination on that. Kasi, sa perception niya, kapag malayo pa yung bola, hindi niya papaluin yon. Pero kapag malapit na yung bola sa kanya, at nakikita niya na yung bola na matatamaan ng bat niya, doon niya lang papaluin yung bola. So, nagkaroon din ng kinesthetic discrimination. Why? Kasi, kung kailan lang malapit yung bola, doon niya pinalo. Pero nung malayo yung bola, hindi niya pinalo. So, it depends on the perception. Diba? He discriminated the situation or the environment based on his visual and kinesthetic discrimination. Like in this another example sa football, di ba? Na-perceive niya na doon nakapwesto yung kakampi niya, kaya doon niya pinasa yung bola. Or maybe, na-perceive niya yung kung saan yung boses nung kakampi niya, di ba? Kaya doon niya pinasa yung bola. Or, simply, Na-perceive niya that the environment, di ba? Yung environment, crowded na siya ng kalaban, crowded na siya ng opponent niya, kaya niya pinasa yung bola. That is what we call perceptual abilities. Now, let's try to analyze the perceptual abilities in this example. So, this is an American football game. Now, in the first video, makikita natin na mali yung throw niya dun sa football. Why? Because he cannot adjust or he didn't adjust to the environment appropriately. So, nagkamali yung paggalaw niya. Kaya yung pagbato niya sa bola ay mali din. So, yun. So, the perceptions niya ay inappropriate kaya hindi niya naibato ng maayos. In the next video naman, di ba, inihagis ng item ay ng player yung football sa kanyang kakampi because napapalibutan na siya ng mga kalaban. And naihagis niya ng maayos or naipasa niya ng maayos yung football kahit napakalayo ng distance niya sa kakampi niya. Because he made an appropriate adjustments of his body, he perceived the right coordination or right distance dun sa kakampi niya, and he make a appropriate decision or discrimination sa environment. Kaya tama yung naging play nila. So, that is perceptual abilities. So, next is physical activities. It requires endurance, strength, vigor, and agility, which produces a sound, efficiently functioning body. So, we have different physical activities, but in my example, these are all sports. We have here baseball and swimming, but there are numerous physical activities like kahit tumbang preso, that is physical activities. Chinese garter, di ba? Doing carpentry, doing auto mechanic, di ba? Doing cooking, dancing. Yun. So, those are all physical activities. The fifth level in the taxonomy is the skilled movements. So, most of the people can do physical activities. Anyone can play basketball, anyone can play badminton, tennis, can do swimming if they wanted to. But that not necessarily mean that they are skilled on playing those sports. Because they don't have they don't acquire a degree of efficiency when performing these complex tasks. Diba? For example, me, I can play basketball, I can shoot the ball, but that not necessarily mean that the ball will shoot. Diba? I can pass the ball, but that not necessarily mean that I can pass it appropriately or skillfully. Diba? Anyone can swim. It could be a frog-like swim, dog swim. Diba? It could be like sisig, diba? Or breaststroke. Diba? But anyone can swim if they wanted to, pero not skillfully. So, skilled movements meaning that the person have acquired a degree of efficiency in performing these complex tasks. So, they have been trained, they have performed it before, and realized the mistakes, and trained it to a degree na kaya na nilang gawin yung may hirap na they can execute the complex performance. Diba? like in this example, yung movements in gymnastics, diba? Napaka-complicated. So, kailangan ng intensive training to execute this performance, this task. Like in sepak takraw, they are very skilled. They know how to block, diba? To score points aggressively or timely, depende sa kanilang strategies. Diba? So that is the fifth level of the taxonomy. So, non-discursive communication, communicating through bodily movements ranging from posture to gestures, creative movements, facial expressions, act a part in a play through sophisticated choreographics. So, many athletes, dancers are skilled. They can perform complex tasks, diba? Na hindi naman kayang gawin ng mga na mga hindi nag-train. But in this last level of taxonomy, ang mga qualified lang dito ay yung mga taong na master na talaga nila yung craft nila, na tayo pa lang, diba? Paggalaw pa lang nila, onting galaw pa lang nila, their expressions pa lang, masasabi mong they are professionals already. They are an identity of their own. For example, Manny Pacquiao, diba? Pag sinabi mo palang Manny Pacquiao, tayo pa lang niya, the way he punched, diba? The way he blocked, masabi mong he is a master of his own craft. Masabi mong isa siya sa pinakamagaling na boxer, diba? Na isang suntok niya pa lang, masasabi mong professional na agad siya. For example, Michael Jackson, when he did the moonwalk, diba? He is an identity of his own because yung moonwalk pa lang, masasabi mo na he is a professional performer. Diba? Hindi niya tayo niya pa lang, expressions pa lang ng mukha niya. Diba? It is very sophisticated. And skilled players are not necessarily non-discursive communicators. Kasi hindi pa nila naabot yung gantong level that this person are the identity of their own. Diba? Galaw pa lang nila, masasabi mo, ay, si Michael Jackson to, ay kay Michael Jackson to. Diba? So, yun. For example, the airwalks of yung dunk ni Michael Jordan. May kilala mo, ay, si Michael Jordan to. O kaya, 360 dunk ni Kobe Bryant. Nasabi mo si Kobe Bryant yun. Diba? O kaya yung napakagandang slice shot ni Federer ng tennis. Masabi mo si techniques ni Federer yun. So, yun yung non-discursive communicators. Naka-reach ng final level of taxonomy. So, let's make basketball as an analogy para mas maintindihan natin yung Harlow Psychomotor Taxonomy. So, alam naman na natin what is reflex movements and basic fundamental movements. Now, let's start with perceptual abilities. Diba? If you will be passing the ball, kailangan alam mo kung saan nakapwesto yung kalaban mo at saan nakapwesto yung kakampi mo. You perceive your distance between them. You perceive what are the obstacles and what are the possible moves para hindi ma-steal yung bola. That is a form of perception. Next, in three-pointing, di ba? In shooting, kagaya ng ginawa dito ni Stephen Curry, di ba? Pinerceive niya, di ba? Yung layo nung ring at diniscriminate niya kung ano ba yung tamang angulo para ma-shoot niya yung bola. Next is dribbling. There are many types of dribbling. Then many exhibitions that can do in dribbling like crossover, diba? Ankle breaks. Yun, depende yun. Marami pa yung and many more. So, yung speed ng dribbling, yung height ng pagdidribble, yung pag-cross dribbling, it has many purposes and functions during the play. And the players adjust their dribbling based on the situations. So, yun. So, let's analyze this clip wherein Kobe Bryant ay bumali sa ere. Bumali nung nag-layup siya. So, bakit kaya niya in-adjust yung layup niya? Kasi, diba, nakita niya, na-perceive niya na yung kalaban niya ay susupalpalin siya. Diba? Na-analyze niya at discriminate niya yung environment. Diba? Kaya in-adjust niya yung katawan niya para iwasan yung kalaban at ma-shoot niya yung bola. That is a perceptual ability wherein he make good judgment depending on his environment. Depending on what he sees, diba? And what he perceives. Lastly, we all knew that all NBA players are skilled and they are also non-discursive communicators, 'di ba? Hindi naman sila mapupunto sa NBA kung hindi talaga sila magaling and they are not identity of their own, 'di ba? Pero depende na lang sa degree ng kanilang pagkahusay kasi talagang merong mga players in NBA na napakahusay. Like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. When we saw them play, we all knew that this is Kobe Bryant, this is LeBron James, di ba? Kahit nasabi mo yung ibang players, yung gumawa ng play nila, malalaman mo, ay ganito maglaro si Kobe Bryant, ay ganito maglaro si LeBron James. Di ba? So, based from those examples that I have given, you can now identify or determine what kind of activities that you could give to the students, di ba? So, most commonly, if the students or the learners are non-athletes, then hanggang physical activities lang yung level na kaya nilang abutin. But if the students or the learners are athletic types, then pwedeng umabot sa skilled movements. They could train and acquire a specific degree of efficiency during the play. Diba? Pero mahihirapan abutin yung non-discursive unless talagang yung learner or yung athlete that can perform extremely difficult task and can make an identity of his own. Na masasabi mo na galaw niya pa lang, he is very professional in this craft. So, yan. So, these are the references of this presentation. I hope you learned a lot from it. And, hindi lang to magagamit sa board exam, but sa pagtuturo niya pa. So, if you have questions, you can post it in the comment section. And please, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to be updated for more comprehensive, detailed review videos.